So finally, Sony decided to release their brand new APS-C camera that they've been talking about and talking about and literally talking about all year. And people like me have been waiting for well over a year now. And we didn't think it was going to come out. It was like a myth. Everybody was talking about the A7000, the A6700. Everybody was talking about it. Everybody's been ranting about it. There's hundreds of videos on YouTube about it, hundreds of posts across all different kinds of forums and Reddits and everything else. People talking about what they wanted to see in this camera. And guess what? Sony completely botched this launch. They completely came out the gate with something that not only is disappointing, but is honestly completely against what they were promising all along. They specifically told us that they were going to release something above our expectations. What they gave us is a camera that they literally could have released probably 8 months ago. At least 6 months ago, easily, but probably closer to 8 months ago. Like around when they released the 6400, they could have released this camera because it's literally just the 6400 with IBIS and a headphone jack and iFocus, IAF, and video. I mean, that's pretty much the only difference. And then it has a bigger battery, which gives it a little bit bigger of a grip, which are all great things. Don't get me wrong. Those are all things that we wanted. But literally, it's an A6400, and you're charging $1,400 for this shit. When Canon's releasing their new camera for like $1,200, which is like on par with this and has way more megapixels. Like, I don't understand what Sony's doing out there, but it's actually kind of pissing me off. And if I would have been there for this launch, I would have been like the guy at the fucking Blizzard launch for, well, not the launch, but when they were talking about that Diablo mobile game, and he came out there and just blew everybody up when he said, what is this, an April Fool's joke? I would have done the exact same thing. I've been like, Sony, like, what are you doing? Like, you promised to be above our expectations, and then you come out and deliver way below our expectations. Like, don't get me wrong, it's a fine camera. Like, it's a fine camera. It has a lot of the features that I'd love to have in a camera and that I've been waiting for in a camera. But there's a lot of other things that you could have improved on. 4K 30p has been the standard now for like a couple of years easily. Like, you're so behind the times now. I mean, you're behind so many different companies now. Like, it's ridiculous. Like, you're allowing Canon to outstep you, where you've been at the lead, at the forefront for a while now. Canon's actually taken a step forward, and Fuji has better shit with their cameras. Like, why can't you get 4K 60? We all wanted 4K 60. It's not the biggest deal in the world, but why couldn't you give us 4K 60? Instead, you give us 4K 30p, the same nonsense. Nobody's impressed. You didn't give us any more megapixels. I'm not saying megapixels is, completely needed, but you definitely could have gave us a few more megapixels. Everybody was expecting to get like at least 28, but you didn't give us that, so I don't understand. You gave us IBIS, which we're all happy about. Let's be completely honest, though. Your IBIS is shit. Like, because your mount's so small, like, your IBIS is shit. Like, your camera's still shaky as shit, even with IBIS and focus on your lens. Autofocus in the lens, it's still shaky like this all over the place when you're trying to hold it still. You still need a gimbal. So, I mean, it's great that it has it, but for crying out loud, it could be improved upon. It's not. People wanted dual SD card slots. It's not there. And one of the biggest features that we all wanted was a flip screen. And of course, you're giving it to us with the flip up screen, which is better than nothing. We're all going to take whatever we can get. That's going to allow some people to want to pay for it. But at the end of the day, it's blocking the hot shoe. It has to go back further than a regular side screen would go. It's hard to see yourself if you have a lens hood on. I mean, there's so many things wrong with that position. It's not functional. You know what I mean? Like, we want to have a side screen. Like, some people don't like it just aesthetically, but let's be honest, there's no downfall to that. And it's not like Canon has a patent. I'm tired when people say that Canon has that patent. You can't patent something like that. That's like Apple patenting smartphones. No other smartphone would have ever came out. Like, you can't do that. Like Sony patenting, like, video game consoles. Like, you can't do that. You can patent the specific hinge design that you have, but that's it. And then Sony could just make their own and then boom, release it. Like, that's not, an explanation why they're not doing side screens. They just don't want to do it. They don't want to change the mold of their camera. I don't understand why, because this flip-up shit is ridiculous. So, you're pissing us off with that. And you try to say that this camera is aimed for people that want to shoot video, but yet you're gimping us the features that we're asking for. And then you give us this lousy lens for the kit. I mean, it's $1,400 for the camera, which I think is a bit overpriced. It should be like right around the same price as Canon, like $1,200, maybe $1,300 at max. But it's $1,400, and if you want the kit, it's $1,800, and you get a shitty lens that has like a ridiculously slow f-stop. It goes up to like 6, I think, on the high end. And it's like a range of like goes way up there. Like, it's, I don't know, it's ridiculous. Like, no one needs a lens for that, especially if it's a camera focused for video. Like the new lens that you just released, you know, for another like $1,400, which is actually a decent lens, we need something more closer to that, or what you released with a 7R3, because at least then, you know what I mean, you may only be getting f4, but at least then you're getting a focal range that you actually want, and it's actually going to be useful for someone that's shooting mostly video, not these long range lenses that you're only really going to use for maybe sports or, you know, wildlife, which is useful, don't get me wrong, but that's usually something, you know, that's more niche. And also, is not only is it more niche, but it's also just not useful for the general public, for, you know, the market that you're trying to sell this camera to, which is people that are shooting video, because most people don't need long range lenses. They actually want wider range lenses with a little bit of zoom, so that, you know, if they need to punch into something, they can. But I'm disappointed. And like I said, if I would have been there, like, I would have stood up and I'd be like, Sony, what are you doing? Like, I literally would have smacked him in the face and like showed him, you know, what is going on? Like, what are you doing? Like, it doesn't make sense. Like, I don't understand. And then you release a 6100, which is literally a GIMP version of 6400. Is Sony becoming Canon now? I thought Canon was the only one that was crippling itself. Now Sony is? What's the reason for that camera? And you charge like $100, $150 less for it than the 6400. Like, I don't understand. To release the 6100, that camera doesn't even need to exist. Like, literally, it's a useless camera. Like, I mean, I'm sure people buy it because people are stupid, but there's no reason to buy it. Just buy the 6400 if that's the camera you want. I mean, what are we going to get? 6100, a 6150, a 6160? Like, I don't get it. Like, it doesn't make any sense. And of course, we can't expect much because you released the 6600. That's why it's not a 6700. And it's nowhere close to what a 7000 would be. We're probably not going to get those cameras for like another 2 years, the cameras that we all actually want with the features that we need. And we're not even asking for that much. You know, 10-bit is something that we all want, but again, if you can't do it, you can't do it. But 4K 60 you can do all day long. And a lot of these other features you can do all day long too. You're just refusing to do it for whatever reason, and still charging like a ridiculous amount of money, in my opinion, for what you're giving. You know what I mean? Like I said, it's easily $200 more expensive than what it should be. And then you're giving people like a really shitty range of lenses to choose from, you know, especially when you're trying to focus it towards people that want to shoot video. So Sony, you completely screwed up with this launch. And I'm really upset because I've been waiting and waiting and waiting and anticipating this moment. And I've been so stoked, and I figured, why are you making us wait this long? Like, we have been waiting months and months and months. You said you're going to go above our expectations. We were expecting some crazy shit to come out with this launch. We were expecting so many more features, so many more improvements on the last generation. You know what I mean? That even be at the beginning of this year, it doesn't matter. It's a more expensive model. We want more than just IBIS and a couple other things tacked on. Like, we want more than that. And you knew that we wanted more than that. You knew that we expected more than that, yet you're going to lie to us and say that you're going to go above our expectations. Put everybody on edge, make everybody super excited, and then completely let us down on the launch, and then act like everything's okay. I don't get it. Like, I don't get it. Like, you guys over there at Sony, somebody needs to get fired, and, like, shit just needs to change. But that's all I got to say. Thanks for watching.